The void is not empty. Those who have never left the gravity well of a planet might imagine space as a barren expanse, a great nothingness between the stars. But to those who serve aboard the mighty vessels that traverse the galaxy, the void is teeming with life, with danger, with opportunity, and with horrors that would drive a planetary citizen to madness in moments. To serve aboard a rogue trader vessel is to exist at the very edge of human civilization, where the Emperor's light grows dim and the rules that govern the Imperium become suggestions rather than laws. It is to be part explorer, part conqueror, part merchant, and always, always to be aware that death waits around every corner, in every shadow, and in the very substance of the warp itself. The rogue trader stands as one of the most powerful individuals in the entire Imperium of man. These remarkable figures hold a warrant of trade, an ancient document that grants them authority equal to that of planetary governors, space marine chapter masters, and even inquisitors in certain circumstances. The warrant of trade is not simply a piece of paper or a digital file. It is a sacred relic, often thousands of years old, sometimes bearing the signature of the Emperor himself from the days of the Great Crusade. Some warrants were signed by primarchs, those legendary sons of the Emperor who led humanity's conquest of the galaxy before half of them turned to chaos and plunged the Imperium into civil war. The oldest warrants date back 10,000 years, and their holders can trace their lineage through countless generations of rogue traders, each adding to the dynasty's wealth, power, and reputation. What makes the warrant of trade so extraordinary is the freedom it grants. While most citizens of the Imperium live their entire lives under the crushing weight of bureaucracy, dogma, and control, a rogue trader operates with almost complete autonomy. They are empowered to explore regions of space beyond Imperial control, to trade with alien species that would be executed on sight in civilized space, to conquer worlds in the Emperor's name and claim them for their dynasty, and to operate outside the normal strictures of Imperial law. A rogue trader can employ Xenos in their crew, something that would see any other Imperial citizen burned as a heretic. They can negotiate with alien empires, deal in goods that are forbidden throughout most of the Imperium, and make decisions that affect the fates of entire worlds without consulting any higher authority. But this freedom comes with immense responsibility and equally immense danger. A rogue trader is expected to expand the borders of the Imperium, to bring new worlds into the Emperor's domain, to establish trade routes that will benefit humanity for generations to come. They must do this while operating in regions of space where there are no Imperial Navy fleets to call upon for aid, no Adeptus Arbites to enforce the law, no ecclesiarchy to provide spiritual guidance. They are on their own, save for their ship, their crew, and whatever resources they can acquire through trade, conquest, or guile. Many rogue traders never return from their expeditions. Some are lost to the warp, their ships vanishing into that hellish dimension never to be seen again. Others are destroyed by alien empires, pirate fleets, or chaos renegades. Still others succumb to madness, corruption, or simple bad luck, their dynasties ending in fire and blood in some forgotten corner of the galaxy. For those who serve aboard a rogue trader vessel, life is defined by this precarious balance between freedom and danger, between opportunity and disaster. You are part of something greater than yourself, a dynasty that may have existed for thousands of years and may continue for thousands more. You serve a Lord Captain who wields power that most Imperial citizens cannot even imagine. But you also live every day knowing that your next warp jump might be your last, that the next alien world you explore might be the one where you die screaming, that the next trade negotiation might end with your ship being boarded by raiders who will kill or enslave everyone aboard. This is the reality of life in the void, and for those who serve aboard rogue trader vessels, it is the only life they know or want. A city among the stars. To truly understand what it means to serve aboard a rogue trader vessel, you must first grasp the sheer scale of these magnificent and terrifying ships. When planetary citizens think of spacecraft, they often imagine small vessels, cramped and utilitarian, designed to carry a handful of crew members on short journeys. Nothing could be further from the truth when it comes to the massive void ships that traverse the Imperium. Even the smallest vessels employed by rogue traders, frigates like the Sword class that might be considered modest by Imperial standards, stretch over 1.5 kilometers in length and house crews numbering in the thousands. Larger vessels, cruisers and grand cruisers that represent the apex of Imperial shipbuilding can be 5 or even 10 kilometers long, towering edifices of metal and stone that dwarf any planetary structure save the greatest hive cities. These are not simply ships. They are cities in space, self-contained civilizations that can sustain themselves for decades or even centuries without touching solid ground. A typical rogue trader vessel houses anywhere from 10,000 to 50,000 souls, and the largest vessels can hold over 100,000. These populations include not just the crew necessary to operate the ship's systems, but also entire communities that exist within the vessel's vast interior. There are families who have lived aboard the same ship for generations, children born in the corridors and cargo holds who grow up never knowing the feel of natural gravity or the sight of an open sky. There are merchants who operate shops and trading posts deep within the ship's bowels, craftsmen who practice trades passed down through their families for centuries, preachers who tend to the spiritual needs of the crew, and countless others who form a complete society unto themselves. The structure of a void ship reflects this city-like nature. At the very top, both physically and socially, lie the upper decks where the ship's officers reside. Here you find spacious quarters, sometimes even luxurious by the standards of the void, with proper gravity, clean air, and amenities that would not be out of place in a planetary noble's mansion. The bridge, where the rogue trader commands their vessel, is often a cathedral-like space, soaring hundreds of feet high, filled with monitoring stations, cogitator banks, and servitors hardwired into the ship's systems. The navigator's sanctum, where that essential individual guides the ship through the warp, is typically located near the bridge, a heavily shielded chamber where no one enters without the navigator's permission. The astropath's quarters, where these psychic communicators send and receive messages across the void, are similarly isolated for the safety of both the astropaths and the crew. As you descend through the ship, the conditions deteriorate steadily. The middle decks house the more junior officers, the skilled ratings who operate the ship's essential systems, the tech priests who maintain the machinery, and the soldiers who defend the vessel from boarders. Here the accommodations are functional but cramped, with dozens of crew members sharing quarters designed for far fewer. The air carries the smell of recycled atmosphere, the ever-present scent of machine oil, and the acrid tang of ozone from electrical systems. The corridors are narrower, the ceilings lower, and the constant hum of the ship's engines becomes a background noise that never quite fades. Further down, you reach the decks where the common crew lives and works. These are the gun decks, where massive macro cannons and lance batteries are operated by teams of hundreds. Loading a single shell for a macro cannon requires a crew of dozens working in perfect coordination, hauling ammunition that can weigh several tons from magazines deep within the ship. The work is backbreaking, dangerous, and relentless. Injuries are common, deaths more frequent than anyone likes to admit. The crew quarters at this level are communal sleeping areas, rows of bunks stacked 3 or 4 high, with barely enough room to squeeze between them. Privacy is a luxury that exists only in the dreams of those who serve here. Meals are taken in vast refectories, where gruel-like food is dispensed from automated systems and consumed standing up because there aren't enough seats for everyone. But even this is not the bottom. Deep in the bowels of the ship, below the gun decks and crew quarters, below even the cargo holds and munitions magazines, lie the lowest levels. Here is where the ship's most essential and most dangerous work takes place. The engine rooms are cathedrals of flame and fury. where plasma reactors burn with the heat of stars, and the ship's massive drives generate the thrust necessary to move millions of tons of metal through the void. The temperatures here are lethal to unprotected humans. Only those with specialized heat-resistant gear can survive for more than a few minutes, and even they must rotate out frequently to avoid being cooked alive. The warp engines, which allow the ship to pierce the veil between real space and the Imperium, are even more dangerous. These ancient devices are covered in prayers and purity seals, tended by tech priests who whisper litanies to the machine spirits while making the delicate adjustments necessary to keep the ship from being torn apart when it enters the warp. Lower still are the life sustainers, massive atmospheric processors that recycle the air breathed by thousands of crew members. When these systems fail, as they inevitably do in a vessel thousands of years old, the results can be catastrophic. Entire sections of the ship can be rendered uninhabitable, the air becoming toxic, or simply vanishing as it vents into space. The crew who work in these areas are often pressed men and women, indentured servants who have no choice but to labor in these hellish conditions. Some are criminals, sentenced to serve aboard ship as punishment for their crimes. Others are simply unlucky, born into families of ship ratings and pressed into service the moment they were old enough to hold a wrench. Many never leave these lowest levels in their entire lives, generation after generation, living and dying in the darkness, their existence known to the officers above only as numbers on a roster. The ship itself becomes a living thing to those who serve aboard it for any length of time. Every vessel has what the tech priests call a machine spirit, a kind of consciousness or personality that emerges from the countless systems and subsystems that keep the ship functioning. Crew members swear they can feel the ship's moods, sense when it is content or angry, know when something is wrong even before the alert klaxons sound. Some ships are said to be benevolent, protecting their crews in ways that defy logical explanation. Others are temperamental or even malevolent, prone to system failures that seem almost deliberate, as if the ship itself is trying to kill those who serve aboard it. The oldest vessels, some of which have been in service for 5 or even 10,000 years, have histories longer and richer than most planetary civilizations. Crew members tell stories of these ships' great deeds, the battles they have won, the worlds they have discovered, the famous rogue traders who once commanded them. These stories become a kind of mythology, binding the crew together and giving them a sense of purpose and pride, even in the most difficult circumstances. Living aboard such a vessel means existing in a world where the boundaries between different social classes are as rigid as the bulkheads that separate one deck from another. An officer who serves on the bridge may never venture into the lower decks in their entire career, remaining blissfully ignorant of the conditions in which the majority of the crew lives. A rating who loads shells in the gun decks will never see the rogue trader's personal quarters, will never set foot on the bridge, will live and die without ever meeting the Lord Captain they serve. This stratification is not simply a matter of pride or privilege. It is a necessary survival mechanism in a society as large and complex as a void ship's crew. Without strict hierarchies and clearly defined roles, chaos would reign, and chaos aboard a void ship is a death sentence for everyone. The command structure, power, and responsibility. At the apex of this vast human machine sits the rogue trader, also known as the Lord Captain. This individual wields absolute authority over every aspect of the vessel and its operations. Their word is law, their decisions final, their power limited only by the practical realities of command and the warrant of trade they carry. The rogue trader is typically a scion of an ancient and powerful dynasty, inheriting both the warrant and the responsibilities that come with it from a parent or other relative. In rare cases, the warrant may be granted to an individual who has distinguished themselves in service to the Imperium, often as a way of rewarding them while simultaneously removing them from positions where they might threaten the established power structure. Former Imperial Navy admirals, Astra Militarum generals, influential navigators, and even inquisitors who have become too powerful or too controversial for their own good have found themselves granted warrants of trade and sent off to explore the galaxy's fringes. The personality and priorities of the rogue trader shape every aspect of life aboard their vessel. Some are pious individuals who see their mission as a holy calling, spreading the Imperial creed to lost human worlds and bringing them back into the Emperor's domain. These rogue traders maintain strict discipline, enforce rigid adherence to Imperial law and custom, and brook no deviation from proper conduct. Their ships are like floating monasteries, filled with shrines and chapels, where crew members are expected to attend daily prayers and demonstrate their faith in the God Emperor through word and deed. Others are pragmatists who care only for profit, treating their expeditions as business ventures and measuring success in terms of wealth accumulated rather than worlds brought into the Imperium's embrace. These rogue traders may trade with Xenos species, deal in goods that are forbidden in civilized space, and operate their vessels more like merchant ships than military craft. Still others are little more than pirates, using the legitimacy granted by their warrant of trade as cover for what amounts to sanctioned theft and murder. These rogue traders prey on weaker vessels, raid poorly defended worlds, and accumulate wealth through force rather than fair dealing. The warrant protects them from official sanction, though such behavior can make them enemies of other Imperial factions and even other rogue traders. And then there are those who are genuinely devoted to exploration and discovery, scholars and adventurers at heart, who use their warrant as an excuse to venture into the unknown and see what wonders and horrors the galaxy holds. These individuals often maintain the most eclectic crews, welcoming anyone who can contribute to their expeditions, regardless of background or species, pushing the boundaries of what is acceptable, even under the broad permissions granted by the warrant of trade. Directly below the rogue trader in the command hierarchy sits the first officer, also known as the seneschal in many rogue trader dynasties. This individual serves as the rogue trader's right hand, responsible for implementing the Lord Captain's decisions and managing the day-to-day operations of the vessel. The first officer must be someone the rogue trader trusts absolutely, for they speak and act with the full authority of the Lord Captain when the trader is unavailable. In practical terms, the first officer manages the vast bureaucracy necessary to keep a ship with thousands or tens of thousands of crew members functioning. They oversee the ship's quartermaster corps, which handles supplies and logistics. They coordinate with the various department heads to ensure that all sections of the vessel are operating efficiently. They handle discipline among the crew, investigate incidents and disputes, and maintain the records that track everything from ammunition expenditure to crew mortality rates. The first officer must also serve as a buffer between the rogue trader and the various factions that inevitably develop aboard any large vessel. The tech priests who maintain the ship's machinery often have their own agenda, following the dictates of the Adeptus Mechanicus rather than the rogue trader's orders when the two conflict. The military commanders who lead the ship's troops may have their own ideas about tactics and strategy. The navigator and astropath, essential to the ship's operation, but also powerful individuals in their own right, must be kept satisfied and cooperative. The first officer navigates these political waters, mediating disputes, smoothing over conflicts, and ensuring that everyone is working toward the same goals, even when their methods and motivations differ wildly. The arch-militant serves as the ship's military commander, responsible for all combat operations, whether in the void or on planetary surfaces. This officer commands the armsmen who guard the ship and maintain security, the soldiers who form the core of landing parties, and the specialists who operate the ship's weapons systems during void combat. The arch-militant must be an expert in both naval warfare and ground combat, equally comfortable directing the fire of the ship's macro cannons against enemy vessels and leading boarding actions through hostile territory. Many arch-militants are former Astra Militarum officers or ex-naval commanders, bringing with them years of experience in the Emperor's military forces. Some are more exotic, former mercenaries, or even Xeno's warriors, who have sworn service to the rogue trader in exchange for wealth or the opportunity to pursue their own agendas. The Engineer Prime holds a position of critical importance, serving as the chief tech priest aboard the vessel and the primary liaison with the Adeptus Mechanicus. The Engineer Prime is responsible for maintaining all of the ship's mechanical systems, from the smallest door servo to the massive plasma reactors that power the entire vessel. They command a small army of tech priests, servitors, and trained ratings who collectively keep the ship functioning. The Engineer Prime performs the sacred rites and rituals that please the machine spirits, conducts repairs when systems fail, and oversees the constant upgrades and modifications that are necessary to keep a ship that may be thousands of years old competitive with more modern vessels. The relationship between the Engineer Prime and the rogue trader is often complex. The tech priest owes their ultimate allegiance to the Mechanicus, not to the trader, and there can be conflicts when the Mechanicus's interests diverge from those of the dynasty. A wise rogue trader treats their Engineer Prime with respect and works to keep them satisfied, for an unhappy tech priest can make life aboard ship very difficult indeed. But perhaps no crew members are more essential to a rogue trader's operations than the navigator and the astropath transcendent. These individuals possess rare and precious psychic abilities that make interstellar travel and communication possible. Without them, the rogue trader's vessel would be trapped in a single star system, unable to navigate the warp or communicate with the wider Imperium. The power they wield means they must be treated with a level of respect and consideration that most crew members can never expect, even as their nature as psychers makes them objects of fear and suspicion to the common ratings who know what horrors can result when psychic powers go awry. The Navigator, guiding light through darkness. The Navigator occupies one of the most privileged and most terrifying positions aboard any rogue trader vessel. These individuals are born into the ancient bloodlines of the Navis Nobilitae, navigator houses that have existed since before the founding of the Imperium itself. The navigator gene, a unique mutation carefully maintained through selective breeding, grants these individuals their defining characteristic, a third eye, typically located in the center of their forehead and kept covered except when in use. This warp eye, as it is known, allows navigators to perceive the tides and currents of the immaterium in ways that no other human can. When a ship enters the warp, that nightmarish dimension where the normal laws of physics break down and the stuff of thought and emotion becomes real, the navigator alone can see the way forward. They can perceive the Astronomicon, the psychic beacon generated by the God Emperor himself from the Golden Throne on Terra, and use it to chart a course through the madness of the warp. Without a navigator, warp travel becomes an act of desperate madness. A ship can make blind jumps, relying on complex calculations and cogitator banks to plot a course, but such jumps are limited to perhaps 4 light years at most, and even then the risk of catastrophe is enormous. The slightest error in calculation can result in the ship being thrown thousands of light years off course, emerging from the warp in completely the wrong location, or worse, never emerging at all. Ships that make blind jumps too frequently or push too far inevitably meet terrible fates, torn apart by warp storms, invaded by demons when their Geller fields fail, or simply lost forever in that realm where time and space have no meaning. With a navigator, however, warp travel becomes merely extremely dangerous rather than suicidal. A skilled navigator can guide a ship across vast distances, making jumps of dozens or even hundreds of light years. They can sense warp storms before the ship enters them, giving the captain time to alter course or delay the jump. They can detect the presence of other vessels in the warp, whether friendly or hostile, and take action accordingly. The best navigators develop an almost instinctual feel for warp travel, sensing dangers that their conscious mind cannot articulate, but that their psychic gifts perceive nonetheless. These individuals are treasured beyond measure, For a talented navigator can be the difference between a successful expedition and one that ends with the entire ship lost to the warp. Life as a navigator aboard a rogue trader vessel is unique even among the privileged officers who serve at the command level. Navigators are typically provided with luxurious quarters, far more spacious and comfortable than even senior officers enjoy. This is partly a matter of showing proper respect for their station. For navigator houses are among the wealthiest and most powerful organizations in the entire Imperium, and offending a navigator's sense of honor can have consequences that extend far beyond the current voyage. But it is also a practical necessity. The act of navigating through the warp takes an immense toll on a navigator's mind and body. The human brain was never meant to perceive the raw stuff of the warp, and even with the protection of the navigator gene, prolonged exposure causes damage that accumulates over time. After a particularly long or difficult warp jump, a navigator may need days or even weeks to recover. They suffer from crushing headaches, waking nightmares where the boundaries between warp and real space blur, physical ailments that range from simple exhaustion to actual mutations as exposure to warp energies begins to warp their flesh. The oldest and most experienced navigators bear scars from decades of service, both visible and invisible. Some develop additional mutations beyond the standard third eye, growths and deformities that mark them as something other than fully human. Others suffer psychological damage, becoming increasingly erratic or paranoid, convinced that entities from the warp are pursuing them even when safely in real space. Many navigators who have served too long become virtual prisoners in their sanctums, unable to function outside the heavily shielded chambers where they work, dependent on life support machinery to sustain their failing bodies. The relationship between a navigator and their rogue trader is complex and multifaceted. On one hand, the navigator is an employee, serving the dynasty in exchange for payment and the opportunities that come with exploring the galaxy's fringes. On the other hand, they are typically nobility in their own right, members of houses that may be wealthier and more influential than the rogue trader's dynasty. This creates a situation where the formal hierarchy says the rogue trader commands, but the practical reality is that the navigator must be persuaded and convinced rather than simply ordered. A wise rogue trader treats their navigator as a valued partner, consulting with them on major decisions, seeking their input on everything from which routes to take to which worlds to explore. An unwise rogue trader who treats their navigator as just another subordinate may find that individual becoming uncooperative, or worse, requesting reassignment to another vessel, leaving the rogue trader without the one crew member they absolutely cannot do without. Navigators who choose to serve aboard rogue trader vessels, rather than accepting more stable positions with the Imperial Navy or chartered merchant fleets, tend to be individuals who crave adventure or seek to escape something in their past. Some are youngest children of their houses, unlikely to inherit significant wealth or position, who see service with a rogue trader as an opportunity to make their own fortune and reputation. Others have committed some crime or embarrassment within their house and have been exiled to the fringes of explored space as punishment, or simply to get them out of the way. Still others are genuinely devoted to the ideal of expanding the Imperium's borders, using their gifts to help humanity claim new worlds and discover lost technologies. And some, perhaps the most common, are drawn to the danger itself, the thrill of navigating through the most treacherous regions of the warp, the challenge of charting routes that no navigator has ever attempted before, the opportunity to test their skills against obstacles that would destroy lesser individuals. The ECNT navigator's daily routine aboard ship varies dramatically depending on whether the vessel is in real space or making a warp jump. During real space operations, when the ship is traveling within a single star system or conducting business on a planet, the navigator has relatively little to do. They may study warp charts, planning potential routes for future jumps. They consult with the rogue trader and other senior officers about strategic decisions. They maintain their health and prepare themselves mentally and physically for the next time they must open their third eye and stare into the warp. Some navigators use this downtime to pursue hobbies or scholarly interests, becoming experts in xenology, archaeology, or other fields relevant to the rogue traders' operations. Others spend their time in prayer or meditation, strengthening their mental defenses against the horrors they know they will face when the ship next enters the warp. When a warp jump is imminent, however, the navigator's life becomes intensely focused and dangerous. They retire to their sanctum, a specially shielded chamber located near the ship's bridge. This room is heavily protected, both physically and psychically, designed to isolate the navigator from any distractions or threats while they work. The walls are typically inscribed with prayers and hexagrammic wards, protective symbols that help shield the navigator from the worst of the warp's effects. Banks of monitoring equipment track the ship's systems, providing the navigator with information about the vessel's status, even as they focus their attention on the warp itself. Servitors and specially trained ratings stand ready to attend to the navigator's physical needs, bringing water or stimulants as required, for a navigator cannot afford to be distracted by bodily concerns while guiding a ship through hell itself. The process of navigation itself is something that those who have never experienced it cannot truly understand. The navigator removes the protective covering from their third eye, and immediately the warp becomes visible to them. What they see defies easy description. Some navigators speak of a roiling sea of colors that do not exist in normal spectrum, hues that hurt to perceive and linger in the mind long after the eye is closed. Others describe it as an ocean of screaming faces, the accumulated emotions and thoughts of billions of sentient beings given form and substance. Still others report seeing geometric patterns that shift and flow, mathematical impossibilities that somehow coexist in ways that violate every law of physics. All agree that staring into the warp is an experience that no sane person would voluntarily endure, yet it is precisely what navigators must do every time they guide a ship through that dimension. Within this chaos, the navigator searches for the Astronomicon, that psychic beacon emanating from terror itself. At distances close to the heart of the Imperium, the Astronomicon is clear and bright, a fixed point of light in the madness that allows the navigator to orient themselves and plot a safe course. But at the fringes of explored space, in regions like the Coronis Expanse where rogue traders typically operate, the Astronomicon is dim and distant, barely perceptible against the background roar of the warp. Navigating by such a weak signal requires immense skill and concentration, and even the best navigators make mistakes when operating at the limits of the beacon's range. This is one reason why exploration of regions beyond the Astronomicon's reach is so rare and so dangerous. Without that guiding light, a navigator is all but blind, relying on instinct and experience to find a path through the immaterium. The actual journey through the warp can last anywhere from days to months of real space-time, though within the warp itself, time is meaningless. The navigator must maintain constant vigilance throughout the journey, watching for warp storms that might tear the ship apart, sensing for the presence of demonic entities that might try to breach the Geller field and invade the vessel, adjusting course to avoid dangerous currents or regions where the boundary between warp and real space grows thin. It is exhausting work that requires total concentration for extended periods, and no single navigator can maintain the necessary focus for more than a few hours at a stretch. This is why larger vessels, particularly those belonging to wealthy rogue trader dynasties, maintain multiple navigators. They work in shifts, spelling each other so that someone is always guiding the ship while others rest and recover. Smaller vessels with only one navigator must rely on that individual's stamina and make shorter jumps to avoid pushing them beyond their limits. The astropath, voice across the void. If the navigator allows a rogue trader to move through space, the astropath transcendent enables them to communicate across it. The galaxy is a vast place, with countless worlds separated by light years of empty void. Even at warp speeds, traveling from one end of the Imperium to the other would take years, and there is no conventional technology that allows faster-than-light communication. Without astropaths, each world would be isolated, unable to call for aid or share information with its neighbors. The Imperium would fragment into tens of thousands of separate polities, cut off from each other and vulnerable to every threat the galaxy holds. Astropaths solve this problem through their unique psychic abilities. Unlike navigators, who are born into their position through careful genetic manipulation, astropaths can come from any background. They are simply psychers, individuals born with the ability to perceive and manipulate the warp, who have been identified by the Imperium's vast apparatus for detecting and controlling such dangerous individuals. Every psyker in the Imperium is required by law to submit to the authority of the Adeptus Astra Telepathica, the organization responsible for training and managing these gifted but hazardous individuals. Most psychers are either pressed into service as sanctioned psychers, taught to control their powers, and deployed throughout the Imperium in various roles, or they are sacrificed to the Golden Throne to sustain the God Emperor and the Astronomicon that he maintains. Those few psychers who show particular aptitude for telepathic communication are trained as astropaths. The training is grueling and often fatal, for it involves a process called soul binding, a ritual in which the psyker is brought before the Emperor himself. The Emperor reaches out with his vast psychic might and touches the psyker's soul, burning away much of their power, but also creating a connection that allows them to send their thoughts across the warp. The process invariably leaves the psyker physically blind, their eyes burned out by the Emperor's radiance, but it also grants them the ability to perceive the warp in ways that transcend physical sight. They develop a psychic sense that allows them to see the currents of the immaterium and to project their thoughts along those currents to other astropaths, potentially thousands of light years away. The astropath transcendent aboard a rogue trader vessel serves as the dynasty's link to the wider Imperium. They send and receive messages from imperial authorities, other rogue traders, and any other faction with whom the dynasty maintains contact. This communication is vital for a rogue trader operating beyond the reach of imperial support. It allows them to call for aid if they encounter threats they cannot handle alone, to report discoveries to the administratum so that other imperial forces can follow up, to maintain their business relationships with merchants and nobles back in civilized space, and to receive updates on political developments that might affect their operations. Like navigators, astropaths are treated with a mixture of respect and fear by the common crew. The respect comes from their essential role and the fact that they have been touched by the Emperor himself, making them figures of religious significance in the eyes of devout crew members. The fear stems from their nature as psychers and the very real danger they represent. An astropath whose control slips, even momentarily, can become a gateway through which demons enter the ship. Every crew member has heard stories of possessed psychers, of horrors that burst forth from human flesh, of entire vessels lost when a single psyker failed to maintain their mental defenses. These are not mere superstitions or exaggerations. Such incidents happen with terrifying regularity, and the presence of any psyker aboard ship, no matter how well trained or carefully monitored, represents a constant threat. The life of an astropath, transcendent aboard a rogue trader vessel, is in some ways easier than that of a navigator, and in other ways far more difficult. Easier because sending and receiving astropathic messages is less immediately dangerous than staring into the raw warp, and the act of communication does not inflict the same kind of accumulated physical and mental damage that navigation does. More difficult because astropaths must constantly guard against the whispers and temptations that assault any psyker who opens their mind to the warp. Where a navigator at least has the Astronomicon as a guide, and the protective qualities of the navigator gene to shield them from the worst of the warp's effects, an astropath stands naked before the immaterium every time they use their powers, relying only on their training and willpower to resist corruption. The daily routine of an astropath varies greatly depending on the needs of the rogue trader and the location of the vessel. When operating in regions of space where the warp is relatively calm and communication with the wider Imperium is still possible, the astropath may spend hours each day sending and receiving messages. They retire to their sanctum, a chamber similar in some ways to the navigator's, but configured differently to suit the needs of telepathic rather than navigational work. The room is typically isolated from the rest of the ship, heavily shielded against both physical and psychic intrusion, and filled with devices designed to help the astropath focus their powers. Prayer beads, incense burners, cogitator systems that track and organize incoming messages. All of these are tools that assist the astropath in their work. The act of astropathic communication begins with the astropath entering a meditative state, opening their mind to the warp while maintaining the mental discipline necessary to avoid being overwhelmed. They project their thoughts outward, sending them along the currents of the Imperium toward their intended recipient, another astropath somewhere else in the galaxy. The message is not transmitted as words or images, as a non-psyker might imagine. Instead, it is sent as raw thought and emotion, concepts and feelings that the receiving astropath must interpret and translate into comprehensible language. This means that astropathic messages are often vague or symbolic, subject to misinterpretation, and rarely contain the kind of precise, detailed information that might be sent via conventional communication methods. A message that might be written in a few sentences as "Enemy fleet approaching, request immediate reinforcements," might be received by the astropath as a series of impressions: darkness and malevolence, a sense of massive ships moving through space, feelings of fear and desperation, and an overwhelming need for help. The receiving astropath must then use their judgment and experience to translate these impressions into actionable intelligence. The difficulty and danger of astropathic communication increases dramatically when the vessel operates at the fringes of explored space or in regions where warp storms make communication treacherous. In such circumstances, sending even a simple message may require the astropath to maintain their connection to the warp for extended periods, fighting against the battering of psychic turbulence while trying to project their thoughts across vast distances. The astropath may need to attempt the sending multiple times before they can be certain the message has been received, and even then, there is no guarantee that it will be properly understood. Receiving messages in such conditions is even more challenging, for the astropath must sort through the constant psychic background noise of the warp, distinguishing genuine communications from the random thoughts and emotions that fill the immaterium, all while defending against the malevolent entities that lurk in that dimension and are always seeking weak points through which they might enter real space. The relationship between an astropath and their rogue trader is typically more straightforward than that between a navigator and the Lord Captain, largely because astropaths lack the political connections and personal wealth that navigators enjoy. Most astropaths serve because they have been assigned to the vessel by the Adeptus Astra Telepathica, which leases their services to the rogue trader in exchange for payment. Some, however, have more complex arrangements. They may be members of the dynasty themselves, born into the family and trained as astropaths, giving them a personal stake in the success of the enterprise. Others may have requested assignment to a rogue trader vessel specifically, seeking the adventure and freedom that come with operating beyond imperial oversight. Like navigators who choose such service, these individuals often have reasons for wanting to distance themselves from more civilized regions of space, whether escaping past mistakes or simply seeking opportunities unavailable in more regulated environments. The dangers faced by astropaths extend beyond the immediate risks of psychic communication. Prolonged exposure to the warp takes a cumulative toll, and astropaths who serve too long without adequate rest can suffer breakdowns that render them unable to continue their duties, or, worse, create situations where their powers spiral out of control. The rogue trader must balance the need for constant communication with the necessity of keeping their astropath healthy and sane, sometimes making difficult decisions about whether to delay sending an important message or risk pushing the astropath beyond their limits. Additionally, astropaths are among the first to sense when something is wrong with the warp in a particular region of space. They can detect approaching warp storms before any conventional sensor, feel the presence of powerful demonic entities even at great distances, and sometimes receive premonitions or warnings about threats the ship will face. A rogue trader who ignores their astropath's concerns about the state of the warp does so at their peril, for these warnings often represent the only advance notice the vessel will receive before disaster strikes. Smart rogue traders learn to trust their astropath's instincts, even when those instincts conflict with what logic and conventional wisdom might suggest. Daily life for the common crew. While the officers and specialized personnel like navigators and astropaths live in relative comfort and wield significant power, the vast majority of any rogue trader vessel's population experiences a very different reality. For the common ratings who form the bulk of the crew, life aboard ship is defined by hard work, constant danger, and living conditions that range from barely tolerable to genuinely horrific. These are the thousands of men and women who keep the ship functioning, who load the guns and maintain the machinery, who scrub the corridors and prepare the meals, who live and die in obscurity while the officers above, command, and the rogue trader makes the decisions that determine everyone's fate. The working day for a common rating typically follows a brutal schedule that varies by department, but universally involves long hours of physical labor. Those assigned to the gun decks work in teams of dozens, operating the massive macro cannons and lance batteries that serve as the ship's primary weapons. When the ship is in combat, these crews work in frantic coordination, loading shells that can weigh several tons, adjusting the aim of guns as large as buildings, firing weapons that generate enough recoil to crush a human body if they are standing in the wrong place. The work is dangerous, even in the best circumstances. The machinery is ancient and sometimes unreliable, prone to jamming or misfiring. The heat generated by repeated firing can make the gun decks unbearable, temperatures soaring to levels that cause crew members to collapse from heat exhaustion. Injuries are common and often severe, ranging from crushed limbs when ammunition handling goes wrong to deaths from shrapnel when a gun explodes due to poor maintenance or simple bad luck. Even when the ship is not in combat, the gun crews have work to do. The massive weapons must be maintained constantly, cleaned and lubricated and checked for any signs of wear or damage. Ammunition must be transported from the ship's magazines, a task that requires teams of ratings to haul shells through kilometers of corridors, from the storage areas deep in the ship's bowels to the guns themselves. The magazines must be organized and inventoried, ensuring that the right types of ammunition are available when needed, and that nothing has become damaged or corrupted during storage. For some crew members, this work is literally a family business, passed down through generations. A rating whose parents and grandparents served on the same gun deck will often join that same crew, learning the intricacies of their particular weapon from older relatives before taking their place in the loading chain. Those who work in the ship's engineering sections face different but equally daunting challenges. The engine rooms are places of constant noise and scorching heat, where plasma reactors burn with barely contained fury, and the ship's drives generate thrust through processes that border on the miraculous. The crew who maintain these systems must be part engineer, part priest, for the machinery is so ancient and so poorly understood that keeping it running requires equal parts technical skill and ritual observance. They follow maintenance schedules that were established thousands of years ago, performing procedures that may no longer be necessary or might be actively harmful, but which tradition and superstition demand. They whisper prayers to the machine spirits, burn incense before making adjustments to critical systems, and cover every surface with purity seals and wards meant to keep the machinery functioning. The conditions in the engineering sections make the gun decks seem comfortable by comparison. Temperatures regularly exceed what should be survivable for unprotected humans, forcing crew members to wear specialized heat-resistant gear that is itself uncomfortable and restricting. The noise is constant and deafening, the rumble and roar of massive machines operating at the limits of their capacity. Many crew members who serve in the engineering sections for extended periods suffer permanent hearing loss despite the protective equipment they wear. The air is thick with machine oil, ozone, and exhaust fumes, creating an atmosphere that causes respiratory problems and shortened lifespans. And there is always the danger of catastrophic failure, of a containment breach in the plasma reactors that would instantly vaporize everyone in the section, or a drive malfunction that could destroy the entire ship. Life support systems require their own cadre of ratings to keep functioning. These crew members work in the atmospheric processors, the water reclamation plants, and the food production facilities that make it possible for thousands of people to survive aboard a sealed vessel. The air aboard ship is recycled endlessly, passed through filters and scrubbers that remove carbon dioxide and other contaminants before pumping it back into the inhabited sections. When these systems fail or become overloaded, the results can be catastrophic. Entire sections of the ship can become uninhabitable, the air either vanishing as it vents into space or becoming toxic as contaminants build up beyond the system's ability to process them. The crew who maintain these systems work long shifts in cramped, uncomfortable conditions, constantly monitoring for signs of failure and performing repairs that often require them to enter spaces barely large enough to fit a human body. Water aboard ship is similarly recycled, with every drop recovered and processed through purification systems before being redistributed. The technology involved is relatively reliable, but it means that crew members are constantly drinking water that has been used and reused countless times. Water that may have been someone's bathwater or even their bodily waste before being purified. Most crew members try not to think too hard about this fact, but it contributes to the overall sense of disconnection from natural, planetary life that characterizes long-term service aboard a void ship. Food presents an even greater challenge, for there is no way to produce fresh ingredients in the quantities necessary to feed thousands of crew members. The lower decks are fed mainly on nutrient paste, a gruel-like substance produced by automated systems from algae vats and protein recyclers. This paste contains all the nutrients necessary for survival, but it tastes terrible and has a consistency that most find unpleasant at best. Those with more seniority or who work in preferred departments may receive rations of preserved food, canned or dried goods that, while not fresh, at least resemble actual food. The officers, naturally, eat far better, with access to stores of preserved delicacies, recaf, a stimulant drink similar to coffee, and occasionally even fresh food if the ship has recently made port or conducted trade that included food supplies. Living quarters for common ratings are communal and cramped. Dozens or even hundreds of crew members sleep in the same compartment, in bunks stacked 3 or 4 high with barely enough room to turn over. Privacy is essentially non-existent. Personal possessions are limited to what can fit in a small locker, typically nothing more than a change of clothes, a few personal items of sentimental value, and whatever tools or equipment the rating needs for their work. The compartments are noisy, with crew members coming and going at all hours as shifts rotate, and the air carries the smell of too many people living in too small a space without adequate hygiene facilities. Washing facilities are communal and limited, with crew members queuing up to use sonic showers, or, on older ships, actual water showers that allow only a few seconds of flow before shutting off to conserve resources. Recreation for common ratings is similarly limited. When off duty, crew members typically gather in their quarters or in common areas scattered throughout the lower decks. These spaces might include simple refectories where crew can eat their meals and socialize, small chapels where the pious can pray to the emperor, or sometimes merchant stalls where enterprising individuals sell goods and services to their fellow crew members, using whatever currency or barter system has developed aboard that particular ship. Some ships maintain fighting pits, where crew members settle disputes through sanctioned violence, or gambling halls, where they wager their meager pay on games of chance. Sexual relationships and even families develop among the crew, with children born aboard ship who will likely spend their entire lives in the vessel's corridors, never seeing a planet or experiencing natural gravity. The social structure among common ratings is complex, defined by factors like seniority, department, and family connections. Those whose families have served aboard the same ship for generations often form tight-knit clans, looking after each other and maintaining their own traditions and customs. These family groups can wield significant informal power, controlling access to preferred work assignments or better living quarters, and sometimes engaging in feuds with other family groups that can last for generations. Department loyalty is equally strong, with ratings identifying themselves by which section of the ship they serve in and developing rivalries with other departments. These divisions can sometimes cause problems, particularly when cooperation between departments is necessary, but they also provide crew members with a sense of identity and belonging that helps them endure the difficult conditions of shipboard life. Discipline aboard a rogue trader vessel varies greatly depending on the Lord Captain's priorities and personality, but it is universally harsh by the standards of planetary life. Minor infractions like tardiness, poor work performance, or disrespectful behavior towards superiors might result in punishments ranging from extra work shifts to public flogging. More serious offenses like theft, fighting that results in injury, or dereliction of duty that endangers the ship can result in execution, typically by spacing, throwing the offender out an airlock without a void suit, or public hanging in a location where other crew members can see and learn from the example. The justification for such brutality is practical rather than sadistic. A ship is a closed environment where disorder can quickly spiral into chaos, and chaos aboard a void ship means death for everyone. Maintaining strict discipline is seen as a necessary measure to ensure everyone's survival, even if the methods used would be considered barbaric in more civilized settings. Despite these harsh conditions, many ratings develop a fierce loyalty to their ship and their rogue trader. The vessel becomes their entire world, the crew their only family, and the dynasty they serve the closest thing to a national identity that they will ever know. They take pride in the ship's accomplishments, in battles won and worlds discovered, in the reputation of their rogue trader among the other dynasties. Veterans who have served aboard the same ship for decades become repositories of its history and traditions, passing down stories of past glories to younger crew members and maintaining the collective memory that binds the crew together. This loyalty is one of the rogue trader's most valuable assets. For a crew that truly believes in their lord, captain will endure hardships and face dangers that would cause a less devoted group to mutiny or desert. The perils of the void and warp. To serve aboard a rogue trader vessel is to live constantly in the presence of death. The void of space is inherently hostile to human life, a vacuum that would kill in seconds anyone not protected by the ship's hull and life support systems. But beyond this baseline danger, the galaxy is filled with threats both physical and supernatural that can destroy a ship and its entire crew with terrifying suddenness. Understanding these dangers is essential for anyone who serves in the void, for only by recognizing the risks can one hope to survive them. The most immediate physical danger faced by any void ship is the simple matter of mechanical failure. These vessels are incredibly complex machines, with millions of individual components that must all function correctly for the ship to operate safely. The ships employed by rogue traders are often ancient, their designs dating back thousands or even 10,000 years, maintained through a combination of traditional repairs and semi-religious rituals that may or may not actually contribute to their function. Systems fail with alarming regularity. Life support malfunctions can poison the air in entire sections. Power failures can leave compartments in darkness, with crew members trapped and unable to access critical systems. Hull breaches, whether from micrometeor strikes or simple structural failure in aging metal, can explosively decompress compartments, sucking crew members out into the void before emergency bulkheads seal. The plasma reactors that power these ships are especially dangerous. These devices harness energies comparable to those found in the heart of a star, and when their containment fails, the results are catastrophic. The reactor can explode with enough force to destroy the entire ship, or it can suffer a containment breach that floods surrounding compartments with lethal radiation, killing crew members instantly and rendering large sections of the vessel uninhabitable. The tech priests who maintain these reactors live in constant awareness of the dangers they face, performing their duties with a mixture of technical competence and religious fervor, praying that the machine spirits will remain content and the ancient technology will continue functioning for another day. Warp drives present an even greater danger. These devices allow ships to pierce the barrier between real space and the Imperium, but doing so requires manipulating forces that are barely understood and fundamentally unsafe. When a warp drive malfunctions, the consequences can be far worse than mere physical destruction. The ship might become trapped in the warp, unable to return to real space, condemned to sail forever through that nightmare dimension until the Geller field eventually fails and demons pour in to slaughter or possess the crew. The warp drive might tear open a permanent rift between dimensions, creating a warp storm or demon incursion that devastates not just the ship, but potentially threatens entire star systems. Or the drive might simply cease functioning while the ship is already in the warp, leaving the vessel stranded with no way to escape until the navigator can plot an emergency exit. Or the ship drifts into some region where the boundary between warp and real space grows thin enough for an uncontrolled return. But mechanical failures, as devastating as they can be, pale in comparison to the horrors associated with warp travel itself. The Imperium is not empty space. It is a dimension of pure psychic energy, shaped and given form by the thoughts, emotions, and souls of living beings throughout the galaxy. Over millions of years of war, suffering, and excess, the warp has become saturated with negative emotions. It has evolved into a realm of nightmares, populated by entities that range from simple, mindless energy patterns to the godlike chaos gods themselves, beings of such power that they can shape entire regions of the warp according to their will. Traveling through the warp means exposing the ship and crew to all of this. The only thing protecting them is the Geller field, an energy barrier that creates a bubble of real space around the vessel, keeping the stuff of the warp at bay. As long as the Geller field functions, the crew is safe. They remain in what might be called normal space, able to go about their duties without directly experiencing the horrors that exist just beyond the field's perimeter. But Geller fields are complex devices prone to fluctuation and failure, especially on older ships or when traveling through particularly turbulent regions of the warp. When the field fails, even momentarily, the consequences are immediate and terrible. Demons are the primary threat that enters through a failed Geller field. These entities exist naturally in the warp, creatures formed from the raw psychic energy of that dimension and given purpose by the chaos gods they serve. They hunger for the souls of mortals, seeking any opportunity to break through into real space where they can feed, corrupt, or simply destroy. A failed Geller field is an open invitation, a doorway through which demons can pour in unlimited numbers. They materialize directly inside the ship, bypassing all physical defenses, appearing in corridors and compartments wherever crew members are present. The resulting massacre is swift and total. Demons are not bound by physical laws. They can move through walls, survive wounds that would kill any mortal creature, and wield powers that defy comprehension. A single demon can kill dozens of crew members before being destroyed, and they rarely arrive alone. A major Geller field failure can result in hundreds or even thousands of demons manifesting throughout the ship, turning the entire vessel into a slaughterhouse as crew members are hunted down and killed, or worse. Some are possessed, their bodies and souls taken over by demonic entities that use them as puppets to kill their former comrades. Others are driven mad by exposure to the demons' unnatural presence, their minds, breaking under the strain of perceiving entities that should not exist. The armsmen and soldiers aboard the ship will respond to such an incursion, fighting desperately to contain the demons and drive them back. But conventional weapons are of limited use against beings that exist partly in the warp. Bolters and lasguns can destroy a demon's physical manifestation, forcing it back into the Imperium, but this requires sustained fire and considerable luck. The most effective weapons against demons are those blessed by the ecclesiarchy, weapons that carry the Emperor's blessing and can permanently destroy demonic entities rather than merely banishing them temporarily. But such weapons are rare and expensive, typically available only to the most elite forces. The common ratings who form the bulk of the crew must rely on their standard-issue lasguns and their faith in the Emperor, neither of which provides much comfort when facing entities that can tear a human apart with their bare hands or drive someone insane with a glance. Even if the Geller field holds perfectly throughout a warp journey, exposure to the Imperium still affects the crew in subtle ways. Those who serve on void ships for extended periods, especially on vessels that make frequent warp jumps, often develop psychological problems. They experience nightmares more vivid and disturbing than normal dreams, visions that seem to predict future events or reveal hidden knowledge, compulsions to perform actions that make no logical sense. Some develop physical mutations, changes to their bodies that mark them as having been touched by the warp. These mutations can be minor, like an extra digit or unusual eye color, or they can be severe and debilitating. The Imperium officially regards any mutation as a sign of corruption, and crew members discovered to be mutants may be executed, or at best, confined to the lowest levels of the ship, where they can be useful without being seen. The Voidborn, those individuals born and raised aboard void ships rather than on planets, often show signs of adaptation to their unique environment. They tend to be taller and more slender than planetary humans, their bodies having developed in the low or zero gravity environments common aboard ships. Their skin is often pale from lack of natural sunlight, and they may have difficulty adjusting to planetary gravity when they do venture onto worlds. Some develop a kind of sixth sense for the ship's mood, an ability to feel when something is wrong with the vessel's systems even before any alarms sound. This talent is valued by officers and makes Voidborn crew members preferred for certain critical positions, but it also marks them as different, as somehow tainted by their constant exposure to the warp and the unnatural conditions of life in space. Warp storms represent another category of danger, regions of the Immaterium where the energies are particularly violent and chaotic. These storms can appear suddenly, without warning, and a ship caught in one faces almost certain destruction. The storm batters the vessel from all sides, straining the Geller field to its limits and beyond, tearing at the ship's structure with forces that defy physical explanation. Navigators struggle to find a path through, but warp storms can disrupt even the Astronomicon, leaving them effectively blind. Ships sometimes emerge from warp storms years or even decades after they entered, the time dilation effects of the warp having caused them to skip forward in time. Others emerge in completely different locations, thrown thousands of light years off course, and many ships simply never emerge at all, lost forever in the storms, their fates unknown and unknowable. Beyond all these dangers, there is the fundamental wrongness of warp travel itself. Humans were not meant to perceive or interact with the Immaterium directly. Even with all the protections in place, even with the Geller field functioning perfectly, and the navigator guiding the ship with skill and precision, something about warp travel damages the psyche in ways that are difficult to quantify. Crew members who make too many warp jumps in too short a time sometimes simply break, their minds unable to cope with the repeated exposure to that dimension. They become withdrawn and paranoid, convinced that entities from the warp are pursuing them even when safely in real space. In extreme cases, they may become violent, attacking their crewmates or attempting to sabotage the ship, in service to voices only they can hear. The usual response to such individuals is execution, for the risk that they have been corrupted by chaos is too great to allow them to continue living aboard ship. Combat in the void. When two void ships encounter each other in the vastness of space, the result is often violence. Pirates prey on merchant vessels and smaller rogue trader ships, seeking to capture cargo and enslave crew members. Rival rogue traders sometimes come into conflict over claims to particular worlds or trade routes, disputes that are settled through void combat when negotiation fails. And there are countless hostile forces throughout the galaxy, from alien empires to chaos renegades to simple opportunistic raiders, all of whom view a rogue trader vessel as a potential prize worth fighting for. Void combat is unlike warfare on a planetary surface in almost every way. The distances involved are immense, with ships engaging each other at ranges that can span thousands or even tens of thousands of kilometers. At such distances, weapons fire takes time to reach its target, meaning that gunnery crews must calculate not where an enemy ship is, but where it will be when the shots arrive. The three-dimensional nature of space combat, with ships able to maneuver in any direction rather than being confined to a planetary surface, adds additional complexity to these calculations. And the speeds at which void ships move, traveling at significant fractions of light speed in some cases, mean that even small errors in aim can result in shots missing by kilometers. The weapons employed in void combat are devastating in scale. Macro cannons fire shells the size of buildings, each one carrying enough explosive power to level a city block. These weapons are effective at relatively close range, at least as void combat distances are measured, and they work by overwhelming the enemy's void shields through sheer volume of fire. Lance weapons, powerful directed energy beams that can burn through meters of armor plating, are effective at longer ranges but require more precise aim and are vulnerable to being deflected by void shields. Torpedo tubes launch massive self-propelled munitions that can track moving targets and carry warheads powerful enough to crack open a ship's hull and flood entire sections with fire and radiation. For the crew of a rogue trader vessel, void combat means frantic activity as every section of the ship works to contribute to the fight. The gun crews load and fire their weapons as rapidly as possible, a process that can take minutes for the largest macro cannons. The heat and noise become unbearable, with crew members working in shifts because no one can endure the conditions for more than a short time. The lance batteries require massive amounts of power, drawing energy from the ship's reactors in quantities that can cause brownouts in other sections. The torpedo crews prep and launch their weapons, each torpedo requiring careful handling and arming before it can be fired. Meanwhile, the damage control parties stand ready to respond to hits on the ship, racing to repair breaches, fight fires, and restore damaged systems before the accumulating damage becomes fatal. The bridge becomes a scene of controlled chaos, with officers calling out reports on shield status, weapons availability, enemy positions, and countless other factors that the rogue trader must process to make tactical decisions. The navigator may need to make emergency course corrections to avoid enemy fire or to bring the ship's weapons to bear on vulnerable parts of the enemy vessel. The Engineer Prime monitors the ship's systems, allocating power where it is most needed and warning the rogue trader when critical systems are on the verge of failure. The Master of Augurs, responsible for the ship's sensor arrays, tracks enemy movements and searches for weaknesses in their defenses. All of this information flows to the rogue trader, who must make split-second decisions that can mean the difference between victory and death. For the common crew, void combat is terrifying. They can feel the ship shuddering under enemy fire, hear the distant thunder of macro cannons firing, and the closer roar of damage to the hull. When the ship takes a hit, the results can be catastrophic. A macro cannon shell penetrating the hull can decompress entire sections in seconds, killing everyone in the area. A lance strike can burn through multiple decks vaporizing crew members in its path. Torpedo impacts can rupture power conduits, causing explosions that spread through adjacent compartments. The crew in affected areas often have only seconds to respond, sealing emergency bulkheads, donning void suits if they are available, attempting to reach safety before the spreading damage overtakes them. Many do not make it. Casualty rates during void combat can be horrific, with hundreds or even thousands dying in the span of minutes. Boarding actions represent another form of void combat, perhaps even more terrifying for those involved. When a rogue trader seeks to capture an enemy vessel rather than destroy it, or when pirates attempt to take a prize, the attacker closes to point-blank range and launches boarding craft. These are heavily armored shuttles or assault boats that cross the short distance between ships and latch onto the enemy's hull, cutting through the armor plating to create an entry point for boarding parties. The defenders respond by sealing off the affected sections and rushing armsmen to repel the boarders, resulting in brutal close-quarters combat in cramped corridors and compartments. Boarding actions are desperate, chaotic affairs where the normal rules of warfare break down entirely. Combat occurs at point-blank range, with laser guns, shotguns, and flamers the weapons of choice in environments where a missed shot can punch through the hull and cause explosive decompression. Grenades are used sparingly for the same reason, though desperate combatants sometimes employ them anyway, accepting the risk of breaching the hull for the sake of killing their enemies. The fighting spreads through the ship as the boarding party attempts to reach critical locations like the bridge or the engine rooms, while the defenders try to contain and eliminate them. Cut off from easy retreat, knowing that defeat likely means death or enslavement, both sides fight with a ferocity born of desperation. For the crew caught in the path of a boarding action, survival becomes a matter of luck as much as skill. Those with weapons and training may join the defense, adding their firepower to the armsmen attempting to repel the boarders. Those without such resources can only flee or hide, praying that the fighting will pass them by. Sometimes crew members are caught in the crossfire, killed not by enemy action, but by the defenders' weapons. Other times they are captured by the boarding party, taken as hostages, or simply executed to spread terror and confusion among the remaining crew. The aftermath of void combat is a time of frantic work and grim accounting. Damage control parties rush to repair the most critical damage, sealing hull breaches, restoring life support to affected sections, and attempting to get damaged weapons and systems back online. The dead must be collected and disposed of, typically by being ejected into space through the same airlocks used to space criminals and traitors. The wounded are taken to the ship's medici facilities, where overworked chirurgeons and medici staff do their best to save those who can be saved and ease the passing of those who cannot. The ship's officers compile casualty reports, documenting who died and how, sending notifications to family members who also serve aboard ship. And throughout it all, the crew members who survived wonder when the next fight will come and whether they will be as fortunate the next time. Exploration and first contact. While combat represents one of the greatest dangers faced by those serving aboard rogue trader vessels, the primary mission of most rogue traders is exploration and discovery. The galaxy is vast beyond comprehension, with billions of stars and countless worlds, many of which have never been visited by the Imperium. A rogue trader's warrant gives them the right and responsibility to venture into these unknown regions, to chart new systems, to make contact with whatever civilizations they find, and to claim promising worlds for the Imperium and their dynasty. Landing parties are formed whenever the ship encounters a world that warrants closer investigation. These groups typically consist of a mix of specialists, soldiers, and laborers, led by one or more of the ship's officers. The composition of a landing party varies depending on what the ship expects to find on the surface. If the world appears to be inhabited by potentially hostile forces, the party will be heavy with armsmen and equipped for combat. If the world seems uninhabited, but potentially rich in resources, the party will include prospectors, surveyors, and tech priests who can assess what the planet has to offer. If the expedition is responding to signs of human habitation, the party will include diplomats, traders, and often a representative of the ecclesiarchy to assess the spiritual state of whatever human culture they encounter. For crew members selected to join a landing party, the experience can be both thrilling and terrifying. Many ratings have spent their entire lives aboard ship, never setting foot on a planet, and the prospect of experiencing natural gravity, breathing unrecycled air, and seeing an open sky is almost beyond imagining. But planets are dangerous in ways that are very different from the perils of the void. There is weather, a concept that means nothing aboard a climate-controlled vessel, but which can kill the unprepared through heat, cold, storms, or other natural phenomena. There is native life, which can range from simple microbes that cause disease to massive predators that view humans as potential prey. There are geological hazards, from unstable ground that can give way without warning to volcanic activity or seismic events. And there is always the possibility of encountering hostile forces, whether alien species, human cultists, or worse. First contact with lost human civilizations is a situation that rogue traders encounter with some regularity. During the Age of Strife, the terrible period before the Emperor united Terra and launched the Great Crusade, human civilization collapsed across the galaxy. Warp storms isolated worlds from each other, cutting off trade and communication, and humanity regressed on thousands of planets. Some lost all technology, reverting to primitive hunter-gatherer societies. Others maintained industrial or even early spacefaring technology, but lost all memory of the Imperium and humanity's greater civilization. 10,000 years after the Emperor began reuniting humanity, there are still countless worlds that were never brought back into the Imperium, isolated populations that have no idea they are part of a galaxy-spanning human empire. When a rogue trader discovers such a world, imperial law and common practice dictate certain responses. If the population is relatively primitive and poses no threat, the rogue trader may attempt to establish trade relations, offering advanced technology in exchange for whatever resources the world possesses. If the population has maintained higher technology but has drifted from the imperial creed, the rogue trader may attempt to re-educate them, bringing preachers and missionaries to restore proper faith in the emperor. If the population has been corrupted by chaos or Xenos influence, the rogue trader is expected to call in imperial military forces to cleanse the world, though some choose to attempt the cleansing themselves if they have sufficient military strength available. The reality of first contact is often messy and unpredictable. Lost human civilizations have developed their own cultures over thousands of years of isolation, and they may not react well to being told that they are now part of the Imperium, whether they like it or not. Some welcome contact with the wider galaxy, eager for new trade and knowledge. Others are hostile, viewing the rogue trader's arrival as an invasion and responding with violence. Still others are simply confused, unable to process what the rogue trader represents, or what their presence means for the world's future. The landing parties that make first contact must navigate these situations with a combination of diplomacy, cultural sensitivity, and readiness to use force if negotiations break down. Contact with alien species is even more complicated and dangerous. The Imperium's official position is that all Xeno species are to be exterminated as threats to humanity, but rogue traders are granted exceptions to this rule when necessary for their mission. Many rogue traders maintain trade relationships with alien civilizations, especially those that pose no immediate military threat and possess resources or knowledge that the trader desires. Some even employ Xenos crew members, using their unique abilities in service to the dynasty, despite the risk of being branded heretics if the wrong imperial authorities learn of it. Different alien species require different approaches. The Eldar, ancient and sophisticated Xenos, with a civilization that predates humanity's rise, are dangerous but can be reasoned with. They possess technology and knowledge that humanity has lost, and a rogue trader who successfully negotiates with them can gain access to incredibly valuable resources. But the Eldar are also treacherous and inscrutable, pursuing agendas that span centuries and caring nothing for individual humans. A trade agreement with them must be worded very carefully, for they will exploit any loophole and care nothing if their actions result in human deaths. The Orcs, by contrast, cannot be reasoned with at all. These savage Xenos live only for war and conquest, and any encounter with them inevitably ends in violence. The best a rogue trader can hope for when dealing with Orcs is to ensure they are pointing their aggression in a direction that doesn't threaten the dynasty's interests. The Tau, a young and expansionistic empire, present a unique challenge. They are willing to trade and even form alliances with humans, but they seek to convert humanity to their philosophy of the greater good, which is considered heresy by the Imperium. Rogue traders who deal with the Tau must be careful not to appear too friendly, lest they be accused of disloyalty to the Emperor. Other alien species are encountered less frequently, but present their own challenges and opportunities, from the mysterious Slan to the primitive but numerous Kroot to countless minor Xenos races that exist on the fringes of known space. Archaeological expeditions represent another common activity for rogue trader vessels. The galaxy is littered with ruins from past civilizations, both human and alien. Some date from the Dark Age of technology, that golden age of human achievement before the Age of Strife, when humanity possessed technology that seems miraculous by modern standards. Others are Eldar ruins, remnants of their fallen empire. Still others are from civilizations so ancient that no one knows who built them or when. These ruins often contain technology or artifacts of immense value, STC, standard template construct, data that could revolutionize Imperial technology, ancient weapons that still function after millennia, or simply rare materials that can be sold for profit. But exploring these ruins is extremely dangerous. They are often located on worlds with hostile environments or guarded by automated defenses that remain active long after their creators vanished. They may be infested by Xenos creatures that have taken up residence in the abandoned structures. Worst of all, they sometimes contain chaos corruption, artifacts, or structures that have been touched by the ruinous powers and will corrupt anyone who interacts with them. Landing parties that explore ruins must be prepared for anything, combining combat effectiveness with technical skills and the wisdom to recognize when they have found something that should be left alone rather than claimed. The dark truth of service. For all the adventure and opportunity that serving aboard a rogue trader vessel can provide, there are darker realities that anyone considering such service must understand. The Imperium is not a kind or gentle civilization, and rogue traders, operating as they do beyond the reach of normal Imperial oversight, often exemplify the most brutal aspects of Imperial culture. The truth is that for many crew members, service aboard a rogue trader vessel is a form of slavery, differing from outright chattel slavery only in the technical sense that they are legally considered crew rather than property. Pressganging is a common practice for crew recruitment, particularly when a rogue trader needs to rapidly replace losses suffered during combat or other disasters. When a vessel docks at an Imperial world or even a less civilized port, press gangs venture out into the population centers looking for potential crew. They target the poor, the homeless, criminals, and anyone else who won't be missed or who lacks the political connections to resist. These unfortunates are rounded up, often by force, and brought aboard ship where they are inducted into the crew with no choice in the matter. Some are told that their service is temporary, that they will be released after a certain period of time, but this is usually a lie. Once aboard, they become part of the ship's population, and they will likely remain there until they die. The conditions faced by pressed crew members are often worse than those experienced by ratings who joined voluntarily or were born into ship families. they are given the worst jobs, the most dangerous assignments, and the least comfortable accommodations. They are watched constantly for signs of rebellion or desertion, and any such attempt is met with brutal punishment. Over time, some pressed crew members adapt to their situation, accepting their fate and even finding a measure of contentment in ship life. Others never adjust, remaining resentful and potentially dangerous, viewed by the officers as expendable resources to be worked until they break, and then replaced with fresh victims. Indentured servitude is another common form of crew recruitment. Individuals may sell themselves into service aboard a rogue trader vessel in exchange for passage off their homeworld, payment of debts, or simply because they have no other options for survival. These indentured servants are legally distinct from pressed crew, having theoretically entered into their service voluntarily, but the practical reality is often similar. The terms of their indenture are typically written to favor the rogue trader, with vague language about when the debt will be considered paid or what exactly constitutes fulfillment of their obligations. Many indentured servants discover too late that they have signed away their freedom for life, with no realistic hope of ever earning release. The mortality rate aboard rogue trader vessels is shockingly high, though exact. Figures are rarely shared with the crew. Combat is only one cause of death, and often not the most significant. Accidents claim many lives, from industrial mishaps in the workshops and factories to explosive decompression, from hull breaches to fatal exposure to radiation or toxic materials. Disease spreads easily in the crowded, unsanitary conditions of the lower decks, and the ship's medical facilities are often inadequate to deal with major outbreaks. Malnutrition and overwork take their toll, with crew members literally working themselves to death while receiving insufficient food and rest to recover. Some crew members simply disappear, vanishing into the vast maze of corridors and chambers that make up the ship, their fates unknown. They may have gotten lost and died alone in some forgotten section, been murdered by fellow crew members in disputes that never reached official attention, or fallen victim to any number of other fates that are common in the lawless regions of the lower decks. The discipline system aboard most rogue trader vessels is harsh to the point of sadism. Officers have broad authority to punish crew members for infractions both real and perceived, and the punishments are designed to be public and memorable, serving as deterrents to others. Flogging is common for minor offenses, with crew members tied to posts or grates and whipped in front of assembled ratings. More serious crimes result in execution, typically by spacing, but sometimes by hanging, with the body left on display as a warning. Some rogue traders employ more creative punishments, from branding and mutilation to forcing offenders to work in the most dangerous sections of the ship without proper protective equipment, essentially sentencing them to a slow death from radiation or toxic exposure. Mutation is a constant concern aboard any vessel that travels through the warp with any regularity. Exposure to the Imperium causes changes in human flesh and mind, and no amount of shielding can completely prevent it. The Imperium's official stance is that mutants are abhuman at best and threats to be eliminated at worst. But the reality is that many rogue trader vessels harbor significant populations of mutants among their crews. Some mutations are relatively minor and can be hidden, allowing the afflicted individual to continue serving normally. Others are more obvious and severe, marking the bearer as something other than fully human. The response to mutation varies depending on the rogue trader's disposition and the pragmatic needs of the ship. Some traders are zealous in hunting down and eliminating mutants, viewing them as evidence of chaos corruption and refusing to allow them to exist aboard their vessel. Others are more pragmatic, recognizing that a certain amount of mutation is inevitable and focusing their efforts on eliminating only those whose changes are so severe as to make them useless or dangerous. Some actually cultivate populations of mutants in the lowest levels of their ships, using them as disposable labor for tasks too dangerous even for pressed crew. These mutant populations often develop their own subcultures, hidden communities that exist almost entirely separate from the rest of the ship, emerging only when summoned for work or when they are hunted by purges from above. Chaos corruption represents an even greater threat than simple mutation. The Chaos Gods are always seeking entry points into real space, and the crew of a rogue trader vessel, with their constant exposure to the warp, are vulnerable to corruption in ways that planetary populations are not. Cults can form among the crew, groups of individuals who have been seduced by the promises of the ruinous powers and who work in secret to spread corruption throughout the ship. These cults might be relatively benign, simply groups of crew members who have adopted forbidden beliefs but who continue to perform their duties normally. Or they might be actively malevolent, seeking to sabotage the ship, summon demons, or murder those who remain loyal to the Emperor. Detecting and eliminating chaos cults is one of the most important security functions aboard any rogue trader vessel. The ship's chaplains and confessors conduct regular investigations, searching for signs of corruption and interrogating crew members suspected of harboring heretical beliefs. But these efforts are hampered by the sheer size of the crew and the difficulty of monitoring everyone constantly. A cult that operates carefully, keeping its membership small and its activities hidden, can persist for years or even decades before being discovered. And once a cult is discovered, rooting it out often requires brutal methods, from torture to extract confessions to mass executions when the full extent of the corruption is revealed. The psychological toll of serving aboard a rogue trader vessel can be immense. The isolation of space, the constant danger, the harsh living conditions, and the exposure to horrors that should not exist all combine to wear away at the crew's sanity. Depression is common, as is paranoia, substance abuse, and violence. The ship's chaplains and confessors provide spiritual counseling, but they are few in number compared to the size of the crew, and many crew members are reluctant to seek their help for fear of being branded as weak or faithless. Suicide is not uncommon, with crew members taking their own lives when the burden becomes too much to bear. These suicides are rarely acknowledged officially, the deaths typically attributed to accidents or other causes to avoid admitting the psychological damage that service has caused. For all these dark realities, however, there are crew members who genuinely thrive in this environment. Some are born to the ship life, growing up in the corridors and compartments and never knowing any other existence. They adapt to the dangers and harsh conditions, developing the resilience and skills necessary to survive and even prosper. Others are drawn to the adventure and freedom that serving aboard a rogue trader vessel can provide, viewing the risks and hardships as the price worth paying for the opportunity to see wonders that planetary citizens cannot imagine. These individuals often rise through the ranks, their competence and dedication earning them positions of responsibility and relative comfort. The sense of community that develops among the crew, particularly within specific departments or family groups, provides a support structure that helps many endure. When everyone is facing the same dangers and hardships, bonds form that can be as strong as any family ties. Crew members look after each other, sharing food when rations are short, protecting each other from excessive punishment by officers, teaching younger members the skills they need to survive. These informal networks of loyalty and mutual support are what make life aboard ship bearable for many, creating a sense of belonging and purpose that transcends the harsh official hierarchy. Conclusion: to serve aboard a rogue trader vessel is to exist at the very edge of human experience, in a realm where the normal rules that govern civilized life break down, and each individual must forge their own path to survival and, perhaps, prosperity. It is a life of extremes, where moments of wonder at discovering new worlds or alien civilizations are balanced against horrors that can break the strongest mind, where the freedom to operate beyond imperial oversight comes with the constant danger of death from enemies both physical and supernatural, where the bonds of crew loyalty must compete with the brutal hierarchies necessary to maintain order in the most hostile environment imaginable. For those born to this life, who grow up never knowing the feel of soil beneath their feet or the sight of an open sky. It is simply the way things are, as natural as breathing. For those pressed or recruited from planetary life, the adjustment can be traumatic and sometimes fatal. But for all who serve, whether by choice or by force, life aboard a rogue trader vessel leaves an indelible mark. It changes you in ways both subtle and profound, shaping your understanding of what humanity can endure and what price must be paid for the Imperium's survival. The rogue trader dynasties represent some of the oldest and most successful lineages in human history, families that have endured for thousands of years, while so many others have fallen. They have explored vast regions of the galaxy, brought countless worlds into the Imperium's embrace, and accumulated wealth beyond the dreams of most planetary nobles. But this success is built on the backs of the millions of crew members who have served and died aboard their vessels, anonymous individuals whose names are forgotten, but whose labor and sacrifice made everything possible. If you've found this journey into the life aboard a rogue trader vessel enlightening, consider supporting this channel by hitting that like button and subscribing for more deep dives into the lore of Warhammer 40K. The grim darkness of the far future holds countless more stories to tell, and together we'll explore them all. Until next time, may the Emperor protect you, and may your ship never lose its way in the warp.